This conference will now be recorded.
There we go. Hi.
Hello.
Okay. Okay, good. All right, now the sound's there. Okay, so today is week 3 and we're going to talk about mindfulness. But before we get started, I wanted to ask, what did you, I asked you to do 1 minute a day of growth mindset, and I saw your post. Thank you. Thank you, Cody. So, and Elaine, you too. I saw your post. So what did you learn about, what did you do? What did you practice? What did you learn with growth mindset?
I can say that I was going to post to say that I have fixed mindset. I've been brought up that way, but I was embarrassed by it. So I do post.
So if I have feeling there's a fixed mindset, feeling embarrassed by that.
And I'm trying to, one of the things that I actually did to try to get away from that mindset is to get off of social media like Facebook and Instagram.
So getting off of
makes
social media.
me look at myself compared to other people, and I'm using the breathing techniques to, just ground myself.
Okay, good. And we're going to talk about breathing today. Okay, yeah. So like, I don't know if you remember from last week, but I said we're all a recovering judger, right? You learn this and then you realize how much you're judging. And for me, not necessarily so much other people, but myself. And that's the most detrimental, because the harsher you are on yourself, then eventually it does come out with others, right? So we're all recovering judgers. And I think it's also helpful for me, I think, Dr. Pappas, one of the things I learned in positive psychology was that part of your brain kept you alive, helped you evolve, and is the reason you're here now, right? It's not as useful to us anymore. So, it's like, thank you, that part of my brain. Thank you for letting me, see all the threats. Very good. Got it. I've got things under control, and I'll take it from here. And so even some self-talk around that, because we tend to feel bad about the way that we naturally are. So we're naturally wired to have this negativity bias, to see what is wrong, right? We scan the environment, we see what's wrong. We get a test back, we look for the negative comments, right? When I do character strengths training, everybody immediately goes down and looks at what their bottom ones are. And the whole point of character strengths is don't worry about your bottom ones, focus on your top 7 or 8 and make sure you use those more, because you can't be everything to everybody. Focus on what you're naturally good at, right? So that's sort of what we're doing, is we're shifting our mindset. Anybody find a trick to go to growth mindset? Did anybody use any of the questions? Let me see if I've got any. Okay. So online, we've got to stop myself from going down a reactionary mode, open up to seeing others' point of view. That's good. That's a good outcome of going down that judger path and then switching to the learner path. Anything else? What's interesting is sometimes I have the judger mindset about me getting better about the things that we're working on in this class, right? So it can even pop up then, right? I was running through this PowerPoint and I was like, well, here's all the ways I'm not mindful before I get up and teach it. Okay, so today we're going to focus on mindfulness, breathing, and meditation, and we're going to do a little bit of practice of each, very short. So the father of psychology, William James, says that the faculty of voluntarily bringing back a wandering attention over and over again is the very root of judgment, character, and will. No one is compos sui, or master of oneself, if he has not. An education which should improve this faculty would be the education par excellence. So that's what we're going to do today. And a great graphic. The universe is filled with beautiful things that you probably stepped on while staring at your phone. So what makes this even more challenging for us is that smartphones and social media, by their very nature, attract you to not be mindful. I mean, I know when I'm scrolling through, I'm just, like, I'm getting a dopamine fix. Click, 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 click. It's just a dopamine fix in my brain, but it's not mindful, right? And somebody goes, oh yeah, they moved to Denver. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure I saw that. I don't remember. I wasn't really paying attention. I was just scrolling through. So one thing we want to be careful of is being on our phone, looking down, hunching our shoulders, is sending a neurofeedback to our body and to our mind that we're depressed, right? So the actual act of looking at the phone, and I've seen some great graphics, I don't have them here, but literally the invention of the iPhone and the smartphone and the rise in depression is a very significant correlation. So in one ways they're so helpful, how do we live without them? In other ways they can be very detrimental. And I am constantly being fussed at for not having my phone on me, and I just don't, because it's not good. I don't want to know all the dings and the bings and everything that's going on in the day. I want to be where I am. So that piece I'm really good at, much to the annoyance of others when they're trying to get a hold of me. But we want to, not that we can't use social media and the phone for good, but just to be aware that it can be a rabbit hole that we go down, and it can actually throw off our neurotransmitters.
Can I add something?
Yeah, sure.
It just came to me. I've been taking walks in this little forest area. And when I started, I noticed that when my eyes are down, I'm thinking about something in the future. And then I realized it's all I have to do is shift my eyes here or up. And it took me out of that mindset. So the shifting of my eyes while I was walking. If I'm looking down, I'm just thinking in my head about all these things and ruminating. And then I realized, hey, wait a minute, I just have to look at the tree or look at the...
Right, so you're saying looking down causes you to like worry and ruminate and think about the future, and looking up and noticing where you are, you're not.
When I change my face and expressions, it changes the way I feel.
Right, so very much, you guys have heard the classic experiment where you put the pencil in your mouth and hold it. Okay, well, just doing that will make your body think you're happy because you're imitating a smile, right? So that's what I mean. It's the opposite when you're hunched on your phone, because when we're sad and things are bad, we hunch down like this, right? Instead of being up. So just, something to think about, even just switching your body position when you're on the phone can be helpful.
It's interesting you brought up the phone, because whenever I go to dinner with my wife, one of us always uses their phone at home on purpose, because we don't want to be caught up, like we can't have enough conversations. Like we don't see each other all the time. So it's like we should be able to converse for an hour and a half.
Right, without the...
Yeah, and then I've noticed, like, if I bring my phone and she doesn't, when she goes to the bathroom, I realized I was starting to grab it, because it was like I couldn't just sit there for 2 minutes.
Right, so yeah.
And so I'm always the one, I'm gonna leave my phone. So I'm not
tempted to get on it.
Right.
Okay, so Cody's saying that not taking the phone out when you go on a date, but noticing, when somebody goes to the bathroom, you're like, well, I can't be bored.
Right.
Let me immediately go, rather than be where I'm being. So just an interesting point to think about this as we think about being mindful. And there are sometimes I'm like, I am just going to spend 10 minutes not being mindful on my phone on social media. Here we go. And I know that that's what I'm doing, but I'm almost mindful that that's what I'm doing, and then I'm going to stop. And okay, so the other thing is, this picture really this is what you just said, right? What a great story to tie into this picture. Let's imagine the person's looking down and you've got all these worries and your mind is full, or are you looking up, seeing the trees, the sun, and you're mindful?
Yeah.
Right. So I have a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh. If anybody's interested, you know, there's a couple of books that were really helpful for me getting into meditation, and Peace in Every Step by Thich Nhat Hanh was good. And then there's one by Pema Chodron, When Things Fall Apart, which was really good. Like if you're interested in getting into meditation, those are two great books to just to try. But mindfulness is the energy of being aware and awake to the present moment. It's the continuous practice of touching life deeply and every moment of daily life. To be mindful is to be truly alive, present, and at one with those around you and with what you're doing. Through mindfulness, we learn to live in the present moment instead of in the past and the future. Dwelling in the present moment is the only way to truly develop peace, both in oneself and in the world. And this sounds great, but we are wired to put things into two categories, maybe three. Good for us, bad for us, and don't care, right? And we see things, people, objects, events, whatever, and to be cognitive misers to help us not be bogged down in thought, we just, you know, this is good for me, this is bad for me. And the problem is, even something like being too hot, being too cold, having some pain, we go, this is bad for me, right? And our natural reaction is to go towards things that we think are good for us and maybe grasp and want a little too much. You know, like for me, ice cream, right? I'm just, you know, gonna keep going there, or donuts, whatever. And on the other side, when it's bad for us, we want to get away from it, right? We want to, that's not good for me. And developing mindfulness and being in the present moment is being okay, whether it's good or bad, and kind of realizing the bad isn't bad. It just is, right? I'm too hot, right? You know, whatever it is, I'm having some pain. So we have this thing that is the stimulus, but our response of this good bad is actually what causes a lot of our anxiety and worry, right? Rather than just accepting it, whatever it is. Okay, now I did not bring some food today. I used to have it in my office, but when I cleaned up, I realized I got rid of it today as I was going through this. But what I want you to do is for your next meal, mindfully eat. Just pay attention to the food, bring your thought back to the food, and see what that experience is like. Okay, so why is mindfulness effective? And when I looked at this graphic, I thought about what I kind of usually do when I'm not being mindful. And so usually when I'm doing something, I'm trying to get it done in a fast time manner, because as Cody and I were talking about before, I have a very regimented schedule. Like I have an hour for this, an hour for this, an hour for this, you know, and I kind of clock through my day that way. Or I'm trying to get dinner ready on time to, you know, so bedtime is on time and all of this. So my intention is frequently to get through it, right? And my attitude is, you know, kind of actually slightly irritated because I'm just trying to get done. And what I end up paying attention to is what's wrong. And I was just kind of thinking about this in my daily life, in the kitchen when I'm trying to get dinner ready. And rather than opening up, now sometimes I do this, but sometimes I don't. Rather than opening up to the moment and what's happening, I have an agenda. And I want to get this made because this has to go in the oven and this needs to be cooking and this, you know, and everything that's happening is an impediment, which is actually my children, right? So not a great way to think of them. And then what's my attitude? I'm irritated, right? Instead of, you know, I was just thinking like, how could I do this better? And what I could do is have an intention of, this is quality time with my kids and I'm making dinner. And having this attitude really of being accepting, open, and curious that they're coming in the kitchen and bothering me and wanting whatever. And then really paying attention to everything as it's going on in the moment. Right? So, and you can imagine it's quite a different experience than when I'm getting irritated and feeling rushed. So You know, it's funny, I just looked at this and I was thinking of, it just popped up to me like, this is a time when I'm really not mindful. It also is coming, as Cody and I were talking about, in terms of circadian rhythm, this is before class, you know, it's 5 o'clock. You know, it's the witching hour. I'm like a little cranky, a little hungry, a little tired. So is everybody else. So, but what we want to do in mindfulness is set the intention. Why are you doing what you're doing? Being clear about it. And then developing an attitude of openness and curiosity rather than the judging, it goes into one category or the other. And then paying attention. So here's all the good news about what mindfulness does. I think decreases anxiety and stress, increases your heart rate variability, and this is something I'm going to talk about a lot in this class, is we have something called the vagus nerve. Has anybody heard of it? Okay, it's one of your main nerves. It runs from your brain to your heart and to all your major organs. And you have something called heart rate variability, and that is that your heart rate goes a little bit faster when you breathe in and a little bit slower when you go out. And measuring this is a great indicator of your overall health and how well you're managing your stress. So some of the great researchers like Barbara Fredrickson, they when they're studying mindfulness and meditation and other things, they measure heart rate variability because you can do it without it being too intrusive. And it gives us an indication. And the higher the tone, you know, the longer you live, all of these other things, right? The better your health. So mindfulness also increases the immune response. It activates your prefrontal cortex. And this is where I like to say, when I have flipped my lid, Daniel Siegel, who does a lot of mindfulness work, yeah. So what happens is this is your prefrontal cortex, this is your amygdala and all of your more primitive emotional centers. And when you flip your lid, it's like this, and there is a cut between the upstairs and the downstairs, and you cannot access your upstairs. So you can't get to the thinking, rational, executive part of your brain because your emotions have completely hijacked and taken over, right? So mindfulness helps you be able to access, not flip, and be able to access the prefrontal cortex.
What causes the flip?
Oh, you know, my kid destroying my bedroom. I mean, just, you know, like name it.
But it's like stress or anxiety.
Yeah, stress or anxiety, you know, yeah,
okay.
right. So, you know, whenever you're just like irritated, maybe you snap a little bit or you say something. Yeah, that's the flip. Like, because your rational executive member of your brain is like left the building.
How is it when I'm hungry?
Right, when you're hungry, yeah, right. And you know, for me, the witching hour, or I always say 7:30 is ego depletion for me. Like, you know, I've all my self-control and willpower is just out the window at that point. It has been used up. So mindfulness increases your self-regulation, your emotional, cognitive, and behavioral flexibility, and also your values clarification. When you're mindful, it's harder to get pulled into something that's not something you should be doing. Okay, so the idea is that we start to have what I call primers to remind us to be mindful. Alarms, you know, certain things like sometimes I use when I get on the train, like that's a moment, you know, I get on, I'm holding the bar. For whatever reason, I think about that a lot. But what you want to do, oh, and Thich Nhat Hanh has some great ones about when you see brake lights, it's just a reminder to breathe. Right. So there's certain things that you can kind of build into your day that remind you to be mindful or to take a breath. So the idea is when you hear each alarm or like you see a brake light or whatever it is, notice your immediate response. And it's not bad, right? So when you catch yourself and you're like, oh, I'm really irritated or I'm really, you know, worrying about something, and then you feel bad about yourself. That's not the goal. You just say, wandering mind. It's what the mind's supposed to do, but kind of, that's fine. It's out there doing it, but now I'm going to bring it back. Obviously, the key in here is to not be judgmental with yourself. So you can use the same technique with unplanned interruptions, phone calls, calendar reminders, instant message. So this is, maybe would be helpful if I had my phone on me. But that ping can be a reminder to come back to the present moment. Okay. Great timing there. So breathing. One of the shortcuts, and I'm glad Dr. Pappas mentioned this, one of the shortcuts to reset your parasympathetic nervous system is breathing. And what we're going to do today is we're going to do this, it's a 10-second cycle for a minute, but slow rhythmic breathing activates this physiological calming response. And remember, our sympathetic system is gets jacked up, right? Gets, adrenaline, fight or flight. And our parasympathetic system is the rest and digest, right? So we've got a built-in shortcut to put our parasympathetic system back in charge. And obviously, the more your sympathetic system is in charge, that can decrease your heart rate variability, having that in charge too much. So we want to get to access the parasympathetic system, and we can do that by inhaling and exhaling for 10 seconds. And we're going to do it 6 times. You can do it for longer, but this will reset it. So I'm gonna hold up my hand to start for 1, and we're gonna go through 6. And I'm just gonna, each finger's gonna go up and spend another 10 seconds. So I'll be the timer. Ready? Go. Okay, that's 1 minute. How was that? It was a nice break, right? How do you feel?
Relaxed a little bit more relaxed than when I came in.
Yeah, I feel significantly relaxed, like too relaxed to be up here speaking. Yeah, I found myself really struggling to breathe in for 5. I could only make 4, so I was like, okay, fine, I'll just, for whatever reason, I've done a bunch of stairs today, so, I breathed out for 6, but, and sometimes I was like, whoo, it was like really hard to make it to the 10, but, it's about trying. Anybody else? That's good. Well, everybody's like, I don't want to speak, I want to keep my relaxation. Okay, so we practiced already. So there was a great article in the Huffington Post about change your breathing, change your life. And it really just went on about all the big reasons. Stopping to do these breathing exercises can have a tremendous impact on your health, right? All the things that I mentioned already. But so, it's even out there in pop culture. Okay. So the last piece that I'm going to talk about is meditation. And I want to first start off with a meta-analysis. And basically what we know is that with mindfulness meditation, which is, there's 2 kinds. There's many kinds. There's 2 kinds I'm going to talk about: mindfulness meditation and loving kindness meditation. And I think we'll have time to practice both. But Barbara Fredrickson and all of her work is really focused around loving kindness meditation. So being compassionate in your meditation, and they've just shown a slew of health effects. And this is the woman who, from these health effects, created the upward spiral, or came up with the upward spiral thing. So this particular one looks at mindfulness meditation, and that's just simply coming back to your breath, just coming back to your breath over and over again. And the review really talked about that mindfulness meditation led to an increase in telomerase activity. And what that is, and I wish I had a good picture, is when you think about your, like the little X chromosome, the DNA, there's caps on the end. And those are your telomerase. And basically, as we age, those start unwinding, right? And so, and then when our DNA replicates, it's a little fuzzier. It's a little, this is why we age and how we age. So it literally, mindfulness meditation slows down the effect of aging at a DNA level, right? This is really powerful stuff. So we're gonna do some mindfulness meditation, and I'm gonna set up with the class. Might move the camera, but basically, what I want to tell you is it's really easy. You sit in an upright position. You can sit on pillows or gomdins or whatever you want if you have that, and that's your thing. But you can also just sit in a chair. I just try to sit where my back is not, I'm not leaning back, but I'm holding myself upright. And I always kind of imagine like there's a string pulling through my head that's kind of pulling me up, that's keeping my back upright and my chin just a little bit slightly down, right? So I just kind of imagine this string pulling. And there's many different ways to imagine it. That's one that's helpful for me. But the idea is that we're not going to not think. That's not going to happen. Our brains are built to think. But when we stop focusing on our breath and our mind starts to wonder what's for lunch or whatever else, you just go, oh, okay. And you just bring it back and you start on your breath again. And the exercise is just coming back to the breath, right? Sometimes you're off in Tahiti and you're imagining all sorts of wonderful things and you don't want to come back, but it's the discipline of coming back. And sometimes you'll catch yourself right as you move away. And sometimes you'll be like, oh, I've been gone for a minute, and then you come back, right? And there's no right or wrong or good or bad. It's just the practice of coming back. So what I'm going to do, and again, you're just focusing on your in breath, out breath, one or the other, both, whatever you're comfortable. I do it with my eyes open because that's how I was taught. You can close your eyes, whatever makes you feel most comfortable. But let me see if I can get this to. Okay, so I'm going to sit here with you guys. And we will just meditate for 3 minutes. So get into position. Yeah, you might want to shut your laptop, so you don't have a visual. Oh yeah, and I should also mention, I look out about 6 feet ahead of you. You might have a table in front of you, which makes it a little bit difficult. I'm just scoot back from the table, so I'm just kind of looking a few feet out. And just find a spot on the floor to anchor on.
Can we just close our eyes?
Or you can just close your eyes, either way. Okay, ready? Go. This is where my phone would have been helpful because there was a timer and I had to kind of judge. It might have been over 3 minutes. So let me ask, what was that like?
For me, it was like, so whenever I meditate, I try to become one with everything around me, right? So I feel my pulse in my hands. I hear everything that's going on. Like, I'm like, man, this ain't the right room to be doing this in. I hear the hum from the computers, everything moving outside, the things from the elevator, people laughing. I'm hearing it all. So,
But I think that's great, and you're hearing everything, and that's actually what I would call level 3 meditation, is where you're focused on your breath about 25% of the time, and you're just feeling the environment. So there's a meditation like that, but you know, sometimes people think, oh, it has to be quiet to meditate. It doesn't.
no.
Like you can do it on the train, or the bus, but yeah, but like you're aware, like suddenly you're aware of your environment.
Yeah.
Right, that you were missing all those things before. So that's a great.
Yeah. Well, because I know for myself, I'm not a very present person already. And so when I meditate, that's how I try to get present. I just try to recognize everything around me and become one with it. So.
Good. Yeah. So next time, try focusing on the breath and like coming back to that and see if that can anchor you, because that anchor, I think, is what will develop the being present. But it's, you know, like there's many different forms, but this is just one. Who else? Anybody else?
This is a little bit different because normally when I meditate, I need to lay on the ground and have my legs up.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I fell asleep, but I know I was here. That like my body was like going someplace. It's almost like right before you wake up and you have like a series of visions.
Yeah.
Something was happening up there, and I was like really intense. So I wasn't hearing all of the other things. It was like I was like in my little world.
Okay. Were you able to come back to the breath? Were you able to focus on the breath?
I don't even think my breath became a fact.
Okay. Well, so the exercise is to focus on the breath. So maybe try it again and try it just, you know, because that's the thing is one of the reasons why we sit up is like I mean, I fall asleep sitting up, so that doesn't stop me. You know, it's to keep awake and alert. And we call it a balance between not too tight and not too loose, right? You're focused and you're not rigid. I'm going to get that next breath and I'm not going to go away. And then, or the like, and you don't know where your breath is, right? So it's like finding that balance and coming back to it.
Yeah, I viewed it like it was like a projection screen. There were just like thoughts coming into my head. And I'm golfing with some clients after class today, and I realized that I haven't golfed in a long time, and I'm probably going to play pretty poorly. So I started to get a little nervous.
Right.
My hair started to get sweaty, and then I was like, oh, I don't have to worry about that right now. So I kind of pushed it to the side, and then it was kind of nice
thank you.
to like, instead of getting nervous right before the tee, now I'm kind of like, all right, I'm just going to have fun. Like this isn't about, so it kind of helped me relax something that maybe was in the back of my mind that I wasn't even thinking about. So I was a little bit apprehensive to even commit to this, to going out with them. So it was nice. It was kind of, I was like looking forward to the rest of my day now, I guess.
Right. So you were able to just like, okay, this is a worry that I didn't know about, and then back to the breath.
Right back to the breathing.
Right.
I did like at 10. I held it. I continued to the 10 seconds. I thought that was a nice anchor.
Oh, you kept doing that. Okay.
Yeah.
And you can't just do it like when you're meditating, just do it normally. So like you can't, but yeah, I thought of some tests I had to grade today, and I was like, all right, that's not what I'm doing right now. I thought of like a phone call that was like a little discouraging that I got today, that I'm like, oh, somebody's got to figure that out, you know, like, you know what I mean? And like those things just pop up. And I'll tell you, one way that I use it is, well, once you really start working on the mindfulness, like you're able to come back to your breath and you're able to do that, there's something that arises from that called clarity, right? It's called shamatha vipassana. So the shamatha is the being able to come back to your breath. And once you're able to do that, clarity, it's also called wisdom and insight, arises. So frequently I'll sit, like if I'm feeling, you know, and I don't know, like I'll sit down, I'll meditate, and whatever it was that's bothering me comes up, right? And then I'm like, okay, that's it. or that's the thing that I need to do. Sometimes I'm like, I'm not sure what I should do today. There's so many important things to do. What is it that I should do? I'll sit down and do 10 minutes of meditation, and it becomes clear to me what's most important, right? So, you know, the great meditators have developed all this wisdom from doing the meditation. And yeah, so here's the really cool thing about it. Now, and let me just also mention, I use Insight Timer. It's an app, yeah, but it's free, it's good. But, you know, I'll also say any app is, you know, tracking your data, and no matter if it's a meditation app or whatever it is, that's what they're doing. But here's what we know about meditation. Sustained meditation leads to something called neuroplasticity, which is defined as the brain's ability to change structurally and functionally on the basis of environmental input, right? So doing this mindfulness meditation changes the brain. This is where the emotional regulation and like a decrease in impulsivity comes about by being able to practice. I notice my ability to listen to others is directly correlated to how much I've been meditating. If I've been meditating too much, I'm like, I can't take this in. And so it's also developing, we'll call it developing competence, right? In a way that the more you do it, the more you're able to do competently, right? So, and the more worried I am, the more anxious I am, and the more I have to do, the less I think I have time to meditate exactly right in the time that you probably need it most, right? So that's, I think for me, that's the trick, because when I get, I'm like, no, and I can't sit down. But the other thing is, you know, I think if I could teach you a few things about meditation, one is there's no right and there's no good and bad session, right? So sometimes I sit down and I am anxious and I am upset and I'm not able to come back to my breath, but I sat down and I tried, right? So I can't say that's a bad meditation session, because again, being mindful of the present moment, that is where I am at that moment. And so sometimes I get in this mindset where I'm like, oh, things have to be going really good. I have to be feeling calm and relaxed for me to meditate. Which is kind of the opposite. You know, you just need to have a steady meditation practice and then be mindful, like today I'm not calm and focused. So maybe today I don't do something that needs calm and focus. Does that make sense?
Do you do your meditation schedule the same time every day? Or do you just try to make sure to do it?
I think before kids, I used to just do it right when I would get up every morning. I don't have that luxury now. So, you know, and even when I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it before they get up, and invariably they get up. And you know, but the other thing is, I learned a great lesson. I had a foster dog, and the foster dog kept coming and climbing on me while I was meditating. And I have a meditation instructor or a meditation guide at the Shambhala Center, which is where I do, you know, where I got all my training. And I called him and I said, like, I just can't even do it. This dog, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, oh, animals are great for meditation. Invite the dog to meditate with you. And I was like, this is crazy. Sure enough, I was like, okay, Sally, you want to come meditate with me? And what she was sensing is when I would go to sit to meditate and be like, all right, you need to like leave me alone for 10 minutes. It would make her anxious. And she would come and just, you know, and when I said, Sally, come to the meditation, she would just come sit down at my feet and be calm and relaxed. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. It was the coolest thing ever. But so to say, like when my children are coming down the stairs, I just invite them in. And then it becomes what it is. And it's not going to be my awesome meditation session that I was, right? Now it's about role modeling. Now they're catching mommy meditating. Okay, so, but I didn't get a good session in, but there's some good that came of it, or not even, or it's a moment, you know.
So you're just more mindful of maybe the times that you like, I need to do it because there's so much going on.
Well, I tried it.
Keep it routine.
Yeah, I try to keep it routine, but that gets interrupted a lot. And I think one of the things I've really been focusing on lately is I need one long session a week. So my like little 10 minutes, you know, are okay, but I need that longer 20, 30-minute session just once a week. Okay, so this next article is on loving kindness meditation, which some people might find easier than the mindfulness meditation. But again, this is, I think this is Barbara Fredrickson. No, but yeah, it is, and it's her colleagues. But basically, this is where they found that loving kindness meditation increases your vagal tone. So I want to do this really quick, and I'm gonna just walk through it together. But the basic premise here is, I'm gonna wish somebody. I'm gonna think of somebody that I love, somebody that I'm neutral towards, somebody that I'm having difficulty with. And we're gonna, and you think of it for yourself. We're gonna wish them. The ones I use are, may they be safe, may they be happy, may they be healthy, and may they be relaxed. If you, and I think the formal one's at ease, but I like relaxed. So, so I'm gonna walk you through. You just get in your meditation, eyes open, eyes closed. So now we're gonna think of someone that we really love. Uncomplicated relationship brings us joy, and we're gonna wish them. So may they be safe, may they be happy, may they be healthy, and may they be relaxed. And you just want to feel this in your heart center, that you're wishing these wishes to them. Now we're going to think of someone neutral. Could be somebody you don't know yet. And we're going to wish, may they be safe, may they feel safe, may they be happy, may they be healthy, may they be relaxed. Now we're going to think of somebody we have difficulty with. May they feel safe, may they be happy, may they be healthy, and may they be relaxed. May every sentient being feel safe. May every sentient being be happy. May every sentient being be healthy. May they be relaxed. Okay. And I'd like to go into a few minutes of mindfulness meditation after that and really keep that feeling of goodwill and compassion towards others. Just let that sit. We're out of time, so we can't do it here. But let me ask, how was that? How did that feel? Anybody struggle finding a neutral person? Yeah, most people do. You know why? Because you're so busy for me, against me, that it's kind of like you have blinders on and you can't see the neutral. But this exercise is great at pulling that up and helping you be more mindful of who is in a neutral category.
I feel like that felt different than the other one.
Yeah.
And not like a better or worse, but I feel good, right? I feel great, but it was different.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
How about the person you had difficulty with? That's challenging. That's brought up that's highlighted some issues for me.
I actually have, the person I had difficulties with was also the person I was wishing loving kindness to, so.
That's hard, right? Like sometimes you're like, you know what I found, which is a bit embarrassing to admit, is like, I didn't want them to be healthy. I hoped all their bad ways would be, like catch up with them. So that was interesting to me about where I was in that. Okay, so we're out of time, and I have a quote: 1,000 times my mind wandered, and 1,001 times I brought it back. So I'm going to ask you to practice 1 minute of either mindfulness meditation or loving kindness meditation, or the 10-second breathing, or whatever you feel like doing. But let me know also how it goes, and I'll send out some social media. All right. Okay, thank you for coming. I'm going to check the online comments really quick. Okay, good. All right. Thank you guys online.